Check. Good. So I'm Max Ceron. Max Ceron, CWBA Association Welding podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWBA Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and as always, I'm tackling the talks and walking the walks and climbing the hills that we need to get over. This month, we have a special guest who has been here before and has done this before for us for Pride Month, which we love doing the Pride Month shows every year. I've already been to 2 drag races this year since the month started, and we're only on the 5th. So this is it's going to be a great month for everyone in the community and out and about. Today we have Minah Wheatley and Eric Davis coming to us on the show. So let's start with you, Eric, because you're new. This is your first time on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me. It's going to be an adventure to be on one of my first podcasts. So I'm doing all right.
Good. I'll throw all the hard balls at you, and then see if I can get you to stutter on air.
Okay, sounds good.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, Eric. Where are you calling in from?
Yeah. So right now I'm at my home in Port Orchard, Washington, which is, people who are familiar with the Seattle area, is just on the other side west of the Puget Sound.
Is that your home? Is that where you were born and raised?
No. So I've kind of had a little bit of a journey in since I've been here at Hypertherm, but I was originally born in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh, the Twin Cities.
Twin Cities represent.
Mm-hmm.
And then grew up there, moved to Indiana for a period of time, called Fort Wayne, the northeast side of the state, home for a couple years, and then started college at Purdue University down in West Lafayette. So ever since then, it's kind of been a little bit of a ride.
And what did you go to school for?
I went to school, what's technically called organizational leadership and supervision. But in just passing, I call it business management. And then
you don't want people
I
to know
can't forget my
details.
little minor in Japanese, which unfortunately I haven't used at all, but yeah.
But you're probably not scared of a sushi menu.
No. I tell people that I could easily survive over in Japan, but that's about it.
It's a very trendy destination place right now, Japan. In the last 3 years, I've had so many of my friends, even just last month, some got back. They're all saying it's the place to go right now. It's fun.
Yeah. So like I said, I've never been, but me and my partner are really big into snow sports. He's a snowboarder and I ski. As you can probably tell, the pair of skis behind me. Japan is going to be one of our winter destinations coming up next season, so we're really excited about that.
Well, and I'm sure you got Canada on the list somewhere. Like, I mean, you're talking snow, you got to talk Canada, like.
Absolutely. We actually, so we've got a camper van that we tour around in, and in February we took a 2-week British Columbia van trip, and I think we hit 8 separate ski resorts, 12 days of skiing altogether, so we were really busy getting after it.
You'd be wiped by the end of that.
We absolutely were, but it was a good time.
All right, so we got Eric coming to us from just outside Seattle, and Minah, where are you right now?
Right now, I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh, so you took over for Eric.
Oh, maybe, yeah. I think last time we done this, I was living in New Hampshire but working here. Now it's kind of the other way around. I live here and work in New Hampshire. I'll get it right one day. From the United Kingdom originally, Hypertherm moved me over here. When was that? In 2010. So it's coming on 15 and a half, 16 years. We all moved over. That's my wife and 3 children. 3 children are still based over in New Hampshire. But yeah, we've been living here a couple of years now, so enjoying that. And one of the other big changes, I was on the water jet team when we last spoke. I'm now marketing manager on the laser team.
Oh,
So
so is that a lateral move? Or is that a vertical move?
um, I'd say it's kind of a lateral move a little
Yeah.
bit. When I was in Waterjet, I was the inside sales leader. So I'm now the marketing manager. So it's a little bit different sort of kind of role. Still in leadership, but a different technology now.
Yeah.
Dealing with the laser side, laser consumables within the business. So
And
it's good. It's interesting.
a whole nother learning curve. I was gonna say you're gonna have to learn a whole new pile of consumable lingo and
Yeah.
terms and
Oh yeah. It's been fast track. That's for sure. But fun.
so Eric, I know Minah's pedigree, all these 15 years, 20 years in the industry, worked, her way up through there's nothing about hypertherm she doesn't know. Now for yourself, you're coming in, how did you get into this industry? Because you're a leader. And generally in the steel industries, we don't really want smart leaders. We got all sorts of people of our own that we like to keep. So
Yeah. Which I think, so to your point that you just said, I think that's what has kind of made it really interesting, because
Mhm.
I came into Hypertherm and I came into the industry not really having a technical background or not really having a mechanical background.
Mhm.
I like to tinker with cars on the weekends and stuff like that. But other than that, I was kind of fresh. So after I graduated from Purdue, I moved back to my home state of Minnesota, Minneapolis, and started at this company called LSG Sky Chefs as a supervisor. So each of the airplanes have kind of a bomb structure for how they build their galley equipment. So each piece of trolley has a liquor drawer, a food drawer, right? So that's where I started, I guess you could say, in my first assembly role. And then took a little break from what I went to school for and worked as a train conductor for
Oh,
6 months.
wow.
Yeah.
Did you get to wear the hat?
Didn't get to wear the hat, no.
Oh.
But got to wear plenty of PPE and safety equipment,
Yeah, that's for
especially
sure. Yeah.
being up there in the frozen tundra of Minnesota. But
Yeah.
and then I started with Hypertherm in 2016, actually working in their aftermarket consumables business, so AccuStream.
Okay.
So we built all of the aftermarket components for the water jet systems for KMT, Flow, Omax, and then moved over to intensifier manufacturing. And I was there up until 2021. Then I moved to Denver, Colorado, and took a field service technician role with Omax. Was in that position for 2 years, and then stepped into the technical service leader role. So now I lead a team of 12 field service technicians, primarily on the break fix side of the water jet house. So
Mm-hmm.
we've got about roughly 18,000 water jet units out in the field all over the world. And after 90 days of being installed, then if there's any issues that pop up, they come
To you.
me
Yeah.
and my team's responsibility.
I'm curious. Have you ever come up into Canada for your work?
Yeah, twice, or no, 3 times. Twice in Calgary.
Okay.
We did a couple installs there, or I think, as some people call it, Calgary. Um,
True.
And then once in Vancouver, we were doing a break fix on a machine there.
Okay, I was asking because the college I used to teach at here in Regina, Saskatchewan, they got a brand new, beautiful Omax, the biggest one, 5-axis they could buy like 2 years ago. And I remember they said Omax sent people up for the install and the training and everything. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that was you.
That was
Guess not.
absolutely my team.
Yeah,
Yep.
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, they've been running that jet hard, and it's schools are rough on equipment. Schools are rough on
Mhm.
equipment, so and not necessarily because of use, but misuse.
Yeah. Yeah, schools, it's pretty interesting. Like, all of our other customers are pretty year round, but schools, of course, fall into that semester, trimester
Mhm.
schedule. So the summertime seems to be our busiest time of year for schools.
For sure. All right, Minah, and for you in the last year, you said you moved into the laser world now. Now, How has that been, that transition, this new challenge and new equipment you're learning?
It's been pretty good. I know the team, my leader I've known pretty much since I started with Hypertherm 25 years ago, so we got a great relationship. The position came up and I went for it. I do have a little of the laser experience from years ago with the consumables side of it, back when I lived in the UK working for Hypertherm.
Hmm.
Um, but now we're a sort of smaller team within Hypertherm, but very busy. We do a lot of development on consumables, and manufacturing for like the OEMs, the tier one OEMs out there, developing new technologies, and cooling the nozzles, saving gas, increasing cut speeds, and kind of offering that out to OEMs. So a lot of our work is working directly with the tier one OEMs, visiting them, finding out, how we can work together, improve the technology, like I said, improve consumable life, gas savings, because a lot of nitrogen's involved in laser cutting these days. It's a little bit more expensive, so if we can find ways to save nitrogen without affecting cut speed
Hmm.
or quality, people are often interested in that. And obviously, with the increase in powers, where laser is operating at these days, and the thicker materials that are being cut, um, obviously heat's becoming an issue. So we're finding ways we can keep things cool, and kind of how we can work that. So it's a very busy time. Technology is moving fast. Things are happening quick. The whole laser business, I mean, it just keeps
Hmm.
moving faster and faster. So um,
5 years
we,
ago, yeah, 5 years ago, I remember being at FabTech, and it
yeah,
was like the littlest booth in the corner. A couple guys from IPG Photonics there with their little handheld laser that kind of worked sometimes, and it would only do like a 1/8 bead sometimes. And now here we are, 5 years later, and you can buy them everywhere. They're all over
yeah,
the market. They're all over the place. I don't know how safe some of those weird systems are that are out there. And you're shooting lasers around the room, but I mean, they are a very fast moving technology right now.
it is. It's very fast moving, and kind of staying ahead of it or staying up with it, has its challenges. But we're fighting our corner, and we're coming out with a lot of good technologies which people are interested in, and I like to think we're definitely moving the needle and making an impact.
Well, and I know safety is always a big part of any technology that's new because you tend to outpace safety sometimes in the
Yeah,
excitement of developing, something. And I'm sure that that's going to be foremost in this spectrum as well.
yeah, yeah. Safeties. I mean, everything's moving. I mean, back in time it was CO2 laser, and now it's moving over to fiber more.
Hmm.
Um, and those machines are fairly well, kind of encased. Kind of the operate to me seems quite, divorced from the activity happening inside the machine, as
Hmm.
back in the day with plasma, gas cutting, and even the older CO2 machines. I mean, you
You're
could
right
get
up on
right
it.
onto
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
get right up onto it. As nowadays, it's all sort of kind of encapsulated. So I think safety is well taken care of.
Good, good. So, how long have you been with the company now, Mina, in total?
I've been with Hypertherm. I had my 25th anniversary in March.
Oh, what'd you get? Did you get a watch or a belt buckle or I don't know.
Yeah,
What do they do anymore?
there was a few choice of gifts, but yeah, they were on there. So yeah, we got well recognized. It's a good milestone. I mean,
Yeah.
25 years ago, if you'd have asked me would I still been here, I don't know, but the time's gone really quick. I'm still having a lot of fun and enjoying myself, which is important.
That's amazing.
But
Like I've never stayed at a job more than like 6 or 7 years, and now I'm with the CWB. I'm going into my fifth year. For me to make another 20, I'd have to work till I'm 79. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's gonna make it.
I don't know. It's been fun. As you know, I've worked in a lot of areas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Plasma, water jet, now laser. I started with Hypertherm in the UK. I moved to America for them. They had a spell over in Holland for them, and then came back. So it's been very active, and it's very fulfilling. And every day there's a challenge
There's a
and new
challenge,
and
yeah.
something new to do, and it keeps it fresh.
All right. And Eric, how long have you been with Hypertherm now?
Yeah, I started in 2016, so coming up on 10 years here next
Jeez.
year.
Something about that company. Everyone I run into at Hypertherm stays there. They must be doing something right.
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny because I talk to all my friends and they say the same thing. Like they have the same reaction. Like, "Oh, you must be a company man. How are
Mhm.
you staying there so long?" Because I'm only at my job for 2 or 3 years, and kind of like what Mina said, it's Hypertherm's got everything I'm looking for. So, especially the growth and development. I think I'm kind of a walking testament to that, and
Mhm.
it's I don't see it ending anytime soon.
That's good. That's good. Well, and one of the things that brought the both of you to this show today is, us celebrating Pride Month. And, when I met Mina and then we talked about how Hypertherm had been such a great, supporter of her transition and just the whole process, which can be very convoluted. It can be very ugly. And I've seen it. I think at this point, everyone in the trades has seen a bad example of how the male dominated cis workplace, sometimes has these issues with the queer community, the LGBTQ community, whether it's blatant or rhetorical or whatever it is. We all acknowledge that there is improvement that needs to happen in this space. Now, for you two working at Hypertherm, and maybe I'll start with Eric because you're the younger, fresher meat, I guess. There,
Yeah.
as an openly gay man, was that ever something that you felt was a disadvantage to you in any way, or that you felt worried about in terms of your workplace?
For sure, for sure. It wasn't too long after working at Hypertherm, um, getting to know my team, getting to know the leadership, where I was like, I don't see an issue with being who myself. And like especially everyone asks, "Oh, do you have any kids? Do you have a spouse? What's your family situation look like?" So you enter into those conversations, and
Yeah, and they're
it just got
organic.
to a point.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and it got to a point. It's like, no, I'm gonna be myself, and I'm gonna show up with who I am. And the response just from day one was nothing but supportive. Like, oh yeah, no, that's great.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And that's really a wonderful experience because it should be just a standard experience for anybody in any position. That's what you
yeah,
would hope
yeah,
anyone from culture, race, creed, orientation, whatever, you would hope that it's just like, oh, do you have a partner? Oh, do you have kids? No, yeah. Just normal conversations to learn about the other person without judgment, right?
mhm,
Now, for you,
yeah,
Mina, you're kind
yeah,
of the leader in this. You're the predecessor. You may have broken ground with the company to say, hey, it's okay. Like, you're still crushing your job. You're still making the sales. You're still being a leader because you can't just be a leader on paper. You also got to be a leader. You're like, you got to put up when it's time to put up, right? And,
Yep.
you've been there with the company. So you've shown that there doesn't need to be like this part of your life does not affect this part of your work. They can be separate things. Do you feel like a leader in this company on that level?
Um, I think I do. I mean, I try to be a good person. I try to be a good advocate for our community.
Mm-hmm.
And for Hypertherm and what it's done. I mean, when we last time we discussed, I mean, it was a huge step for me
Mm-hmm.
coming out. When I was in New Hampshire, um, working for Hypertherm there, I was unaware of like, kind of the queer, the LGBTQ plus community that existed within Hypertherm. And it was, I think I told Eric this a little while ago. It was when I moved to Minneapolis and started working out of that office over there.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of people who are, kind of out and proud, Eric being one of them.
A bigger community,
Which
yeah.
yeah, which kind of gave me the strength and like, hang on, maybe I can do this, because I was going through my transition there. I mean, Eric may have had his suspicions about stuff. I mean, I remember the first day I mentioned anything to him about my weekend life, and I was going to a drag show, and the
Mm-hmm.
poor guy, nearly choked.
I was like, how is this the first time I'm hearing about this?
Yeah,
Maybe,
Yeah.
I already have my tickets too.
yeah.
Because I'd stayed hidden for so long, and it was, something like that was so out of character.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a really, really big step for me. And at that time, I don't think there was any other trans people
Mm-hmm.
within the company. So it was like, wow, we're really going to stress test our inclusion and diversity program here. And it was a big worry.
Which it's good. I mean, it's good to do that, but it's hard to be the person that's doing that, right?
It was.
Yeah.
There was lots of tears and
Mm-hmm.
angst and everything, but the support I received from everyone was absolutely amazing. And from that, we've developed programs, to help support people coming out, to make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a lot of things within the organization, to ensure support, not just for people, in the LGBTQ community, but for everyone, to
Mm-hmm.
make sure they're supported, and can come to work and be their best selves,
Yeah.
whatever whoever they are, whatever background from they're from, however. And I think that's really one of the strong things about Hypertherm, and possibly a reason why people stay there so long, is it is accepting of everyone, of everyone's backgrounds, beliefs, whatever, and everyone has the opportunity. And I think also, being an associate owned company as well, we all come to work for the same things every day. Everyone wants to be successful and
Yeah.
see the company be successful and grow, and we all play a part in that.
That's amazing. Now, your path, was, living sort of like a double life for a while, where, you had to find the strength and courage and support to kind of choose to break out of the mold and go down this other path where you felt was your true self. That is the quintessential hero story of breaking out of a shell, and the chrysalis of the butterfly emerging from the cocoon, that whole concept. Now, Eric, you're meeting Minah at this point. She's not transitioning. You're openly gay. Now, what was your journey like at Hypertherm, coming in from another angle? Like, were you openly gay already as a young man, and something that you were already strong within yourself, get hired at Hypertherm, and you're just gonna roll with it? Or, I mean, or is it still a level of hesitancy even when you see allies?
Yeah, no, I was pretty out already in my personal life before I came to Hypertherm. Um it was the whole concept of being out in myself at work, I think, that
Mm.
is a little struggle that I had. But um it wasn't too soon after that. And I got to give a shout out to my leader at the time. His name is Curtis. He was definitely one of the people who got me to, like, no, you have to be yourself, because when you're in a leadership position, right? Half of it is based on authenticity and
Authenticity,
trust.
yeah.
And if you can't be yourself, then how can you get others to be themselves and follow you? So yeah.
Now, did you hear or about the story of Minah before you met the legend of Minah? Or
No. Yeah, no, that's a no. So I knew Minah simply, I think she was at the time, Minah, you might have to remind me, but you were the water jet consumables sales manager, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that's all I knew her as, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
like, we talked here and there, we kind of bantered, like, the hallway conversations. But it wasn't until she had mentioned uh
The drag show?
Hey, I've got tickets to this drag show. What are you doing this weekend? I'm like, oh my gosh, tell me more. Um,
Help me
and
pick
then
out my
I
shoes. I got problems.
yeah, yeah. And then like that's kind of where it started, and then I've just watched Minah become this beautiful person, so and get even closer to her today.
Yeah.
So
Well, and when you said you're from Minneapolis, like I live in Saskatchewan, Canada. I'm 5 hours north of Minneapolis, pretty much. I mean, Winnipeg's closer, but this is kind of not the parts of the North America that are historically known to be extremely supportive of the LGBTQ communities. My brother-in-law is a gay man and grew up in a small town of 500 people, and was a very, very difficult time for him to come out. He basically had to move to a bigger city in order to feel comfortable to be able to come out, because it was going to be such a shock to the town, right? Now,
this is your brother?
My brother-in-law. So my wife's husband, or my wife's brother, sorry. So, I always talk to him about that journey being from a small town. I'm an immigrant from another country, so I have my experience of being the outsider in terms of race, right? And for listening to my brother-in-law's story of being an outsider in your own town because of your sexuality, it's so hurtful, because that's like your community, right? And you got to be so scared of your own community turning on you, whether it happens or not. It's a very real fear, right? Now, you're coming up in Minneapolis, Eric. Was this something that was tough for you, or at an early age were you fairly comfortable or felt safe enough to be able to find yourself?
Oh yeah. So Minneapolis, I have to say, is a super accepting place.
Yeah.
But growing up, it certainly didn't feel that way. Well, I mean, to say it wasn't a safe space growing up, like I can't really say that, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of young people share this, but it was a really long time before I was comfortable with who I was, and it wasn't until I went to college in Indiana at Purdue where I was able to share with friends and student peers that I was gay.
Mm-hmm.
But the college experience was wonderful, and that in the middle of Indiana, the
Mm-hmm.
cornfields, West Lafayette.
Yeah.
I mean, like college campuses tend to be
Pretty
a little
liberal.
bit
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
yeah, but super great experience. And when I did move back to Minneapolis, all of a sudden I found this place that I didn't really know before,
Yeah.
because
All the shutters were off
growing up,
now. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, wow, it's so gay here. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Now,
but yeah,
Mina, you're listening to Eric's story of his coming out, from youth to college. Now, you missed out on all that, right?
Yep.
You are already in an established, what people would consider traditional lifestyle, and you had to find your whole journey out of that. So when you're listening to Eric talk about his journey, in a nutshell, obviously there's much more to that story, but in a nutshell, how do you feel you relate to his story versus how you found yourself in your situation?
I don't think it's a million miles apart,
No.
because I knew about myself, and Marie, my wife, knew. But living in New Hampshire is pretty remote and rural,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until I come to Minneapolis and started working over here that I kind of found all this life, and all these kind of other people from the gay community,
Mm-hmm.
trans community. That I started kind of meeting other people, and hang on, this is what is going on. This is acceptable. People can live a life.
Yeah, you're not alone. You're not
Um,
the only one dealing with this. Yeah.
exactly. And even outside, I kind of made some friends outside work, um, who had been through, similar things, they either had transitioned or were transitioning,
Mm-hmm.
so I got a lot of kind of information, and kind of support from them. You know, and it was while when I was in Minneapolis, I actually started my transition. You know, which you know kind of then carried on to where we are today. But yeah, I mean, it's finding your community is, I think, such a big thing. You know, and it's really important. And you know, the support I've had, you know, from that community as well, you know, as well as in other places work included, has been tremendous. You know, because I mean, we talk, you talk about, you know, finding yourself. I think in some ways, you know, I feel I still am finding myself
Mm-hmm.
in some ways.
It never stops, really. You know.
It never
It
does.
doesn't stop. No, but you know, kind of being in places, you know, where you kind of are more accepted is it's a really great feeling, and does
Yeah.
sort of take a kind of a lot of stress, you know, and weight off the shoulders.
Well, it always seems to be some defining moment in any person's life, period, where they start to accept themselves for who they are. Because I think every human goes through this in some way or another. And like when you come across people that are angry or always upset or always grumpy, I'm always like, this person doesn't know who they are because they're mad at themselves for something. They're not mad at me. They're not mad at other people. They're holding that anger inside, you know. And I've even heard that from people in the queer community saying, you know, like before I came out, I was a really angry, depressed person. I was lashing out at people until I could start being more, you know, just authentic with myself. And I get that. Now, when, you know, for Eric, you said, you know, like when you went to college is when you start to be like, all right, you know, like I got a community, I got people, you know, Minah, when you went to Minneapolis. Now, Minah, for yourself, do you think, and this is completely just rhetorical, but if you would have stayed in New Hampshire, if you would have been staying in the rural, you know, lifestyle that was there, do you think you would have been able to find the strength or courage to transition if you didn't find that community that was so supportive?
I think it would have been a lot harder for me
Yeah.
because, um, like I said, I didn't know there kind of really was a community, and I think, you know, the nearest place was like, you know, nearly a 2 hour drive away where I could go, and you know, which is a long way. 2 hour drive there, 2 hour drive back.
Just
You
to
know,
hang out with some
so
like-minded people, like, gee,
yeah, you
that's
know,
not, that's a lot.
so
Yeah.
I think I still would have done, you know, I still would have started transitioning because it kind of got to a stage where
Hmm.
I couldn't not.
Yeah.
But it would have been a lot. It would have been a much tougher journey, I feel.
Well, I'm glad you found that community in Minneapolis, and I actually used to go party in Minneapolis quite a bit when I was a young man. So I know
Did you really?
Minneapolis. Yeah, I did because like I said, it's
Nice.
only a 5 hour drive from my house, and some of the big concerts never come up to Canada, but they always play in Minneapolis. They all do, all the big names.
Yeah.
So we would just rip down to Minneapolis to go check out concerts, and I went to a bunch of fun, lots of good places to party.
Minneapolis is a good time.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Drive through off sales got me. I mean, wait a second, I can just drive through and buy booze? What the heck is going
Yeah.
on here?
It's yeah.
So let's take a quick break here. We're at the half hour. The conversation's great. We'll take a quick break for our sponsors and our supporters, especially during this Pride Month. We very much value our industry supporters that support these shows, and we'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere here on the CWB Association podcast.
The CWB Association is new and improved and focused on you. We offer a free membership with lots of benefits to anyone interested in joining an association that is passionate about welding. We are committed to educating, informing, and connecting our workforce. Gain access to your free digital publication of the Weld magazine, free online training, conferences, and lots of giveaways. Reach out to your local CWB Association chapter today to connect with other welding professionals and share welding as a trade in your community. Build your career, stay informed, and support the Canadian welding industry. Join today and learn more at cwbassociation.org.
And we are back on the CWB Association podcast. Today we are having a great show discussing all sorts of topics about industry, but focusing on Hypertherm and how great they are at supporting their staff during this Pride Month and all year round. Not just this month, obviously, but the whole year also counts. Now,
Yep.
when we were talking about, you guys coming up in the industry, I mean, in 25 years, you're coming up on 10 years, Eric. Now, you're directly involved in leadership, Eric. This is what you got hired to do, is to bring in leadership. Minah, for yourself, you have established yourself as a leader. Your ability to stay within the company for so long and know so many parts of it well. How do you feel you two are contributing to the new culture of Hypertherm, and how you can be effective leaders for perhaps the next, community that's coming up within you, the next generations? So let's start with you, Eric. How do you feel that you contribute to this, hopefully the new era of Hypertherm?
Yeah. So I mean, beyond just the Owners with Pride group and the participation that we have in that, whenever we have a new hire come on board, I think the concept of an associate owned company is just slightly foreign, along with the just overwhelming values of we want to make everyone feel like they're a part here and they've got something to bring to the table, right? But usually when it's someone new that starts on the team, it's me showing them that firsthand. It's really showing them that, hey, I'm gonna give you my time and we're gonna take you through the whole company and we're gonna just show you the facilities. I mean, it's a lot of what should happen, I guess, anywhere, right? But just really making sure that first impression for a new associate is there and it's a strong one. I'd say that's probably the most impactful thing that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, beyond that, the Owners with Pride group, Minah has definitely been the one who's our guiding light here in the company and the group. But I have taken a position of kind of stepping up and being an active. I don't know if I want to call myself a role model, but I know the position
A supporter,
that I have.
an ally.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to show people that like a completely open gay male within the organization can thrive and be themselves and be outgoing and not be all serious all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah.
Well, and there's this concept that, well, and it's a very true concept. If you can't be what you can't see, or it's at least very difficult to be what you can't see.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of reserved for that 1% that are the groundbreakers. Like I would argue Minah is a groundbreaker in this industry. But seeing a Minah gives people confidence, even in themselves. You're seeing you,
Exactly.
Eric, right, coming in, and you're perhaps a shy, lesbian lady from somewhere, and they come in first day at the job and they meet you, and oh, this is my boss, or this is the person. Oh, and then the lights start clicking on. It's like, oh, that's okay here. Oh, I can be me. I don't have to hide that. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And the stresses start coming off. You know what I mean? Because, like you said, you can't be a good employee when you got a monkey on your back following you around. It's just, you're not going to give your 100% ever. Now, Minah, for yourself, what are you doing, or how do you feel you're contributing to, making sure that the next generation of hires, the next generation of culture at Hypertherm is, going to be making the right steps towards supporting and being an ally to the LGBTQ community?
Big question. I mean, you keep going on about, me being one of the 1% and guiding light. It's I kind of I struggle with that a little bit. It's I want to be a good advocate, for our community, for sure. And in some way, I don't know whether how true this is, but you see so few trans people,
Mm-hmm.
not only in our industry, but in in a lot of other areas, who are successful in what they do. I'd like to be able to show, it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
If the same as anyone, if you're prepared to work hard, develop your skills and abilities, you know, uh, and show what you're capable of doing, that's open for anyone, whether you're gay, queer, lesbian, trans, anything. Certainly, sort of for me, coming out allowed, I think, a lot more of me to concentrate on my job and everything else going on in life without having to have this huge lump of me I was trying to disguise and hide. So I think that's kind of coming out has helped me a lot, sort of being able to focus on what I do. But, I'd be lying if I say, when some people I meet for the first time, they're not shocked. They're
Right.
potentially not expecting to meet a person like me. But I think, it doesn't take long for them to realize, I do know what I'm talking about. I do have skills. I do have abilities. I have gained a lot of knowledge and experience over the years.
You've earned
And
your
I think,
spot. Yeah.
yeah, and I think overall, whether that's people coming into Hypertherm as an organization, or if it's me going out meeting our partners and customers, I think people soon forget, kind of who I am to look at and become more interested in what I have to say as a person.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
kind of the image is gone, and like Eric, he's very skilled, professional, knowledgeable in his role. And I think that's what shows through at the end of
Yeah.
the day. It's not so much how you look. There's more than skin deep.
Absolutely. I was at a conference 2 weeks ago, wonderful conference that happens every year in Canada called the Supporting Equities in Trades through the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum. If you ever want to spend $800 on a conference, because I know some of them are expensive and you don't feel like you get your money out of it, this is an expensive one that you would 100% come out invigorated and energized. It's a fantastic conference. And they were talking about biases and, the intersectionality of biases, the LGBTQ community, the BIPOC community, the I'm too tall, the I'm too short, I'm too fat, my name's sounds like immigrant name. There's just so many things that people could choose to be biased about if they want to. And one of the things they said is like going forward, HR should not ever ask for certain things, and resumes should just come in numbered with skills, period. You don't know their name, you don't know their gender, you don't know where they live. All you get is a number 1112, and this is the skills and abilities and CV. If that's the job, why do you need to know any of the other stuff until after they've made it past the first round of cuts? And I was like, that is huge, because it's true. You look at a resume and you're already putting yourself into boxes. You're already saying, okay, like for myself, I have a long Latino name that I've had to shorten so I don't get, treated weird, because no one's going to be able to say my name properly. So it's always just Max, but my full name is Sebastián Maximiliano Ceron Candia. It's a big, long Spanish name. So, you start being, so if I was to put Sebastián Maximiliano Ceron Candia on a resume right away, okay, check mark immigrant, here we go. And then, you know what I mean? And you start putting these things and you start putting yourself into box after box. And at the end of the day, you get to the CV, the rest of the resume. People may have already made up their mind, right? I was talking to a female there, and her name was Prodwa. It was like a rather rare Indian name. And she's like, I am sure I don't get hired sometimes because I just can't pronounce my name. And they're like, I'm not going to bother hiring this person because their name's too hard to say. And I thought about that after the conference for a couple days, because I was like, if we can be so biased on such a simple thing as just reading a document, how deep can the biases run within companies, within established businesses, social norms, and for things that go so deep, and then intersectional, which I think is why the trans community always finds that extra level of hurdles that they got to go through, because it's also it's like more than one thing happening at once, which is too hard for some people to just grasp, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that, I don't even know how to ask that question. Let me see if I can work it out in my head. Would it be better to not know when you're meeting someone, or is it better to know it all? And I guess that depends on how ready society is on the other end, right?
I don't know. I mean, I've walked into, some people are, really good and they don't seem to bat an eyelid.
Yeah.
Other people, you kind of walk, I've walked in, I've met them, and you see that initial startle on their face. I mean, they try and correct themselves very quickly, but
Yeah, I know. I've seen that look. Yeah.
it's kind of, it's too late,
Yeah.
but
Well, and you're like 2 meters tall too,
yeah, I
right?
know.
So
I've got nice long legs.
yeah, no, absolutely.
But, I mean, that's something I have to deal with. I mean, I have to deal with that, on a daily basis in some ways. So you've got to get past that. And then, like I
Yeah.
say, I need to get past that with them, and again, I think
Right.
once we sort of, we sort of sit down, they've had their initial shock, or it lasts for a few minutes. Once they realize, my knowledge, experience, skills, and abilities, and I'm also there to potentially show them how,
To save money and run their business
but
better.
something
Yeah.
we're doing is
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
improve, an operation, their operation, a performance of a machine. Everything else seems to just drift away,
Yeah.
and that's what becomes important.
Which is what
And
should have been
it's
important
like,
from the beginning, right?
yeah, well, I just thought, I kind of, we should maybe make a pin out of it. They stop looking and start listening. You know,
Yeah. Eyes are up here. No.
yeah, yeah, it is. They, like I said, the appearance just
hmm
fades away, and the fact, that, I'm a trans female just goes, and I just become a person who knows what they're talking about, and trying to show them something, trying to show them a better way of how to do something, showing them other options or whatever the situation may be. And I think that's ultimately what comes through stronger.
Yeah. Have you had a similar experience, Eric, with like perhaps like she said the shock value, the initial shock value, um, for yourself?
Um, I'm gonna be honest.
Mm.
I haven't. I haven't.
It's because you're such a good looking fellow. Like, I mean, what's not
I
to
am.
like?
Yeah, I mean, like maybe in my own head, have I showed
hmm
up and be like, oh, like maybe they're really picking up on this lisp or something,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Um, which I don't even know. But to Mina's point, and just double down on this, like my safe space at work, which of course Hypertherm, as we've talked about, a big safe space, but getting down to business and really talking
Getting
about the
the
facts.
work
Okay,
done. Yeah.
machine's broken. It's not cutting to how you expect it. It's doing X, Y, Z. The garnet's not flowing.
hmm
Let's root cause this. Let's troubleshoot this. And then as soon as you're talking the technology, the
It's just
product, how to
shop.
get them
Yeah.
back up and running, it like nothing else matters. No
hmm
matter like what political beliefs or religious beliefs that people have, like everything else melts away because we're on the same page, we're linked, we're
hmm
connected, right?
Yeah, and it should be at all times about the work. Because
Yeah.
really, that's why you're getting paid. That's why Mina's getting paid. That's why people are spending money is for the work, not for the person's backstory of who's doing the work. That's not a
Yeah.
thing. It's not like it's not like straight man walks in and you're like, let's find out all we can about this straight man. Like that doesn't happen. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like of course there's customers where I'm like, oh, like this person sounds really interesting. I want to get to know him, and you can go back and forth and
hmm
bullshit a little bit, but it's like at the end of the day, it's getting their equipment back up and running
yeah,
and making them money.
that's
That's
right.
about.
I do want to take a quick couple minutes here to discuss something I think is really important and how great, Mina, you look. Like your eyebrows are on point. The microblading. I mean, I haven't seen you in a couple years, and
I know there's been a lot of changes.
yeah, and I can like it's very like you look great. Like your skin tone is fantastic. Like what's going on? What's happened in the last couple of years since I've seen you?
Minah looks better every time I see her.
Yeah,
Just
like I
gotta
mean,
throw
it's
that in.
and
Yeah.
younger. Like I swear, you're 10 years
Yeah.
younger than the last time I saw you. For crying out loud!
Well, yeah, I'd love to say it's all natural, but there's been quite a few surgeries along the way,
Yeah.
So yeah, spent quite a lot of time on the table, having tweaks and adjustments, you know, to kind of get more of a feminine look, But I think it's all, that aside, it's just being very happy with life, becoming
Yeah.
more confident, in who I am, how I look,
I
you know,
sense it. I sense it in you. The
you know,
confidence. Yeah.
how I dress and everything, and it's again, it's having my confidence in that, but also the support of others around me as
Hmm.
well, which is really great. I kind of consider myself really fortunate.
Hmm.
I know people who've had a lot more struggles than me,
Absolutely.
and
Well, and let's not forget the suicide rates among the LGBTQ
yeah,
communities are some of the highest of all. I hate to use the word marginalized or differentiated communities, right? And that's terrible. It's a terrible burden for
yeah.
some. You know.
But it's my goal is to look as good as I can, which again helps the acceptance. I it'd be great if I could walk down the street and all anyone sees is a beautiful woman. But it's
As long as all you see is a beautiful woman, you got
yeah,
it. You got it.
yeah. So that's the goal, that's the plan. But thank you for those compliments. It really means a lot.
No, it's
I'm
great,
gonna cry on screen.
and that's what you want. That's what we all want at the end of the day, right? Is for someone to notice the work you're putting into yourself. Because we're all working projects. We're all broken somewhere, and we got things that we got to fix and work on. And like I said when I said that you exude more confidence than the last interview. Um, that's something I pick up on people, right?
Okay.
Right away. It's what makes me a good podcaster is
Yeah.
you can sense when people are strong, and then you can sense the things that they're a little bit more afraid of, and that trying to find that balance is key to being happy, really, because it never ends, right?
Yeah. I'm sure I look a lot different to the last podcast we did. So I'm sure you were going back and comparing if you haven't already.
I was looking. I was like, I wonder how it's going. Plus they pay you pretty good at Hypertherm, so you know
They look
that's
after us.
good.
So it's good. No, I'm really pleased with how everything's going, and it's um, I sort of feel personally I've come a long way,
Good,
in since we spoke last time,
good.
and kind of everything else around it as well, and the things we've spoken about as well,
Hmm.
in this podcast. I think kind of the acceptance is great, and the support from Hypertherm has been fantastic, and that's not just for me. That's what Hypertherm gives every single associate at Hypertherm. Is
Yeah,
they want everyone to be their true, authentic selves, because you never know what is going on in the lives of the person standing next to you, and
that's right.
kind of what's happening in their lives, what troubles they're having or anything, and
And
Hypertherm tries to create a space.
empathy's in short order these last few years on this planet. It's
Yeah,
you see empathy kind of fading out of popularity, and it's like we gotta correct that because you lose empathy, you start losing perspective on everything, and
yeah,
things that aren't important become important, and things that should be important are forgotten. Right?
yeah. I think that's again. I think over my journey, that's one of the big changes that's happened within me. Is that empathy, and realizing you know, I don't know what's going on in that person's life next to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of my journey as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I tried to be a lot more kind of acknowledging of that, and supporting of people for whatever.
That's awesome. So let's talk about this month. Pride Month, North America. You guys are in Minneapolis. What do you guys got planned? Let's start with you, Eric. What's your big plans for the month? Anything fun? Anything interesting? Going somewhere?
Yeah. So I'm gonna stay here in Washington for Pride Month. So I'm actually taking more days off than I ever have before,
Good.
specifically for Pride. Yeah. But I've got a couple friends that are flying in from Denver, Colorado, joining us. So the weekend of the 19th through the 23rd is just basically going to be a 5-day Pride extravaganza.
Oh, that
So
sounds fun.
mm.
You gonna check out some shows, or is there any shows going on, or any big like bubble parties or anything fun like that?
We've got a couple drag brunches that are scheduled because those sell out so
They
fast, like
do, and they're
especially
expensive.
they are kind of expensive, right? But it's kind of cool because I live just on the other side of the water, like I said, from Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm within walking distance to the ferry. So uh my house in Port Orchard is kind of going to be home base, and then every single morning like
Oh,
we're going to take the
so
ferry over.
party at Eric's.
Uh,
I got it.
yeah, yeah, pride party over in Port Orchard. But no, so drag brunches, we got a couple of concerts scheduled, and
Fun.
we're going to attend the parade, of course. A couple years ago, I was actually in the parade, which was pretty wild experience. But not going to do
Did you
that
get your
this year.
handshake down? Did you
Uh,
the Queen's
got
wave?
the handshake down, yeah. Met a couple thousand glances. Yeah.
Awesome, love it. And you, Mina, you got anything fun planned for this month? Anything you're going to or attending?
Yeah, well, this Saturday we got the Minnesota the Twins baseball Pride game. We're going to that. That's happening this Saturday.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
Obviously the Pride Parade and the big event that happens on Loring Park,
Oh,
which is very close to where I live. We'll be going to, and we're also a couple of us are signing up. There's a bottomless mimosa pub crawl happening around
that
Minneapolis.
sounds dangerous.
It does sound very dangerous, so I feel I have to kind of step up to that one.
Well,
But
as a senior leader, Mina, as a senior leader, we expect a lot from you.
Yeah, so we got to get tickets for that because there's a number of bars and kind of restaurants participating in that, and you can go around. You just buy one ticket and bottomless mimosas in all of them and nibbles and everything. So yeah, might need a chaperone, a sober chaperone for that one. We'll have to see.
Yeah,
no, there's going to be a lot of things happening in the city. So
good. And what about the company? What's Hypertherm doing for Pride Month, or do they do anything for Pride Month to kind of bolster the event?
Well, we kind of it's one of the events around the years that Hypertherm does support and puts out an announcement about how it supports, not just the LGBTQ community, but everyone within the organization. But one of the things we're doing as owners with Pride Group is Hypertherm gives every associate 40 hours a year to do community service time. That's where all associates can go into the community, support our communities, with various projects, food kitchens, cleaning up streets, cleaning up parks.
That's amazing incentive.
Yeah, loads and loads of things. So the group has organized a few like little events, which is not just LGBTQ focused. It's just focused that we're going out into the community, and anyone in the organization can join. Over here in Minneapolis, we're doing a park cleanup at one of the local parks, and I think in New Hampshire they're going to attend a food kitchen. Rope a lot of people in from Hypertherm to go into a food kitchen and to provide support there. And I think we're still working with our Washington. We've put a lot of opportunities, and we're just trying to get some narrow it down which event we want to deal with in Washington to support as well. And so it's not strictly an LGBTQ event. It's organized by the Owners with Pride.
Yeah.
just to go out into the community, and anyone's welcome to join us from the organization. So
Mm-hmm.
they're good things we're hoping to organize. And, again, it raises awareness, for everyone, not just about the LGBTQ plus community,
Mm-hmm.
but about everything which is going on in our communities, and, and how we can support it.
That's awesome. And now what about professionally? Hypertherm, they're always growing. They always seem to be dipping into new areas of the industry and finding new ways to be relevant and leaders. What's coming up in Hypertherm's window in the next, year? Any exciting things you can spill the tea on a little bit? Any cool stuff coming up?
I think there's lots of cool stuff coming up. I think it's watch this space.
Yeah.
We got there's quite a few things bubbling under, which I think are going to be exciting for the industry. I'm not sure I can spill the tea on it.
Oh, come on, Eric, you're younger. You can spill it. Come on.
I was gonna say there's so much that I would love to spill the tea on, but it's gonna be some big stuff and really exciting.
Are you guys gonna be down in FabTech in Chicago? I'd imagine Hypertherm will be there.
Yes.
But will either of you be there?
I will not be there. I just got back from FabTech Mexico actually at the beginning of May.
How was it?
It was great. It was actually my first time down in Mexico. This was Monterrey this year.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I thought the language barrier was going to be more of a thing because
everyone speaks English there. Yeah, everyone speaks English.
Yeah, and it was pretty awesome. During the show, you have to have a very kind of strict setup on what you're cutting and what you're demonstrating, right? Because you can't just cut anything for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But towards the end of the show, we always flip it over to water jetting out custom name tags and
just fun stuff. Yeah.
So it's so much fun, and then you meet so many people in the industry, shake hands of partners and customers and future customers. So it's good stuff. But from the technical leadership group, we like to rotate between the trade shows. So it's actually going to be a couple of my peers who are participating in FabTech Chicago here.
Well, you're luckier than I. I've been trying to get down to FabTech Mexico for 3 years now, and I'm Spanish speaking. My kids are half Mexican, for crying out loud, and they won't let me go. They're like, no, we'll send someone else. I'm like, they don't even speak Spanish. You should be sending me. Like, it's my language. Next year, I'll try to get down there. And what about you, Minah? Are you going to be in Chicago? Or you got any big trade shows coming up?
I'm very hopeful I'll be there this year. For one reason or another, I think I've missed the last few, either traveling or being out the country for something, so I'm really hopeful we're going to be, I'll be down there this year, working on the laser side of things and visiting some of our partners. It's always such a great place where new things are launched. So
yeah, I'm excited to see what toys you guys bring down. I do need a new plasma for my garage. If one of them happens to fall off the truck, just a 45 is good. If it's got a little bit of a dented cover, I don't mind.
That's all right.
But they're always a great show, and like I say, I'm hopeful to be there this year. I'd like to go down this year, but I have to see what's going on as it gets a little bit closer.
Yeah, we got a couple booths already booked for FabTech, and I'll be down there with the podcast doing the road show. So,
nice.
That would be something that I would be very interested in perhaps figuring out how to do with Hypertherm at some point, is getting you guys in front of us live. I mean, we do interview Ray every year as a part of our yearly. So Ray Ripple every year interviews with us. It used to be through Hypertherm, then kind of on her own. I'm not sure who she's getting represented by this year, but I know that she rides or dies with her Hypertherm. So
Ray Ripple will be with us again this year at FabTech.
Yeah, I think she just signed a new contract, actually. I think I saw something like that, but that's good.
Great. I'll hopefully see you down there, Max.
Yeah, I'll be there all week. We're just actually had a FabTech meeting this morning, so everything's rolling. And I'm excited to be down there. I'm excited to see the new tech. I'm excited to see the Hypertherm booth and the new toys, and hopefully get to see the things you aren't telling me about right now that I would love to know about. But Let's wrap up the interview. I got one more question for each of you, and that would be about the importance of what Hypertherm is doing in industry with, in supporting you. So how can Hypertherm be an example to other companies out there in terms of their support for people in the LGBTQ community? So I'll start with you, Minah. How would you either duplicate, replicate, or advise other companies in terms of how Hypertherm has done it?
I think they have, it's a big step. I mean, it's been we've been talking about it, Hypertherm's journey with, inclusion and diversity, equity and inclusion, whatever we're calling it. And it's been a very long road. I mean, this wasn't something that happened overnight.
No.
It started in one area. I think originally it come from looking at people's, the kind of financial hardship some people in the areas were having. So it kind of it started there. It then went on to recovery stuff and, people that were taking drugs, and
all the other supports needed. Yeah.
and looking at, those areas of where we can improve and we can support those people. And it's just grown on from there, to all these different areas and different things. So, it takes time. But I think people also need to be open that just because someone may look a little bit different, act a little bit different, be different, that's still very valuable. And being open to that with people, you can attract a whole wealth of talent to your organization by just being, open to those facts. You haven't got to be, cisgendered. You haven't got to be, of a certain race or gender or anything. Everyone is capable of bringing great things to an organization, and people need to be open and aware for that, and not worry so much about, that they might be a different gender, a different sex, they might be trans, they might be gay, they might be black, like Latino,
whatever it is,
or whatever. Everyone can bring something unique and valuable to an organization and strengthen it.
Yeah, and I'll even add to that. I mean, is that there's such a shortage. Like, we talk about this shortage of labor force that we have. I wouldn't even say impending. I'm saying like happening right now whilst we're alive. And why would we exclude ourselves from amazing talent when it has nothing to do with the job involved? Like it just seems like at this point we need all hands on deck. All hands. I don't care what that hand's connected to. All hands on deck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is. I mean, you can, wipe out the talents of a lot of people if you say, "Oh, we're not gonna employ from this group. We're not gonna look at people from that group." You're really reducing the pool of people and talent that you can choose from. So I think, for me, companies need to look at how they're doing things, what they're doing, and if they haven't started their journey, start soon, because it is a long road.
It takes time, yeah. And you, Eric, how could you see what's being done at Hypertherm as a template or as a prescription for another company in order to sort of follow the same path of inclusion?
Yeah, you go onto the Hypertherm Associates website, and the first thing that we showcase is the people who work here and the assets that they bring to the company. And I think that's got to be the biggest theme, is the people come first. Some other places that I've been at or worked at, it doesn't feel that way, but Hypertherm does it pretty genuinely. And to piggyback off what Minah said, everyone's got something going on. Everyone's got something they're fighting or struggling with, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's mental disorders, whether it's finding their identity in the communities that they live in or the places that they work, right? And Hypertherm shows up in all of the different ways through our support groups, the veterans group that we have, the Owners with Pride group, right? To meet people where they are in their own lives. Because again, like Minah said, everyone has something to bring, and Hypertherm does it in a way where they show up to make sure that that's something that they have to bring is what is out and on display, so they can be successful. And that's what I would love other companies to see. And I think right in the name, Hypertherm Associates, which we kind of rebranded ourselves a couple years ago too, displays that front and center.
Well, that's amazing. And, you hope that leaders are being noticed, right? And you hope that people realize that maybe sometimes the issues within their own company is their lack of diversity and inclusion. And perhaps they are putting themselves in a unfavorable position by simply being stubborn or old school. That was one of the things that we were kind of hoping to talk about today, but the conversation didn't go that way because we were just having such a great conversation. But it was about, in terms of how do we teach the outgoing generation, like the older generation, about these changes happening in industry. I actually don't know if I care that much, to be honest, because it's like they're on their way out. I'd rather focus on the next generation and doing it right, so that 30 years from now, this is a non-issue. This is not a thing. We're not having to worry about, excluding people. It's just natural, like, oh, skills-based, talent-based, good enough, right?
Yep.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, the two of you, for being on the show. Any last shout-outs for anybody that you'd like to send out? Eric, is there anybody you'd like to say hi to or send a shout-out to, personal or organizational, whatever it is?
Oh my goodness. I guess I just want to give a shout out to some of my coworkers who've definitely brought me to where I am today. Mark Noxova, Curtis Betcher, Takeshi Yamamoto, John Petrus, all people that I've been working really closely with since the start here. And of course, the lovely Minah Wheatley, who has been a guiding light in my career as well. And she's the reason, to be frank, that I'm on the podcast today. So
that's great. And I don't know if you're going to be able to shake guiding light anymore. Minah, it's been used a couple times today. You might have that stuck on your business card the next time I see you. Yeah.
I know it's a little scary. I don't ever start out to sort of like try and have an impact on people. I just try and do the right things and support and help people and, do the right things with people. But like Eric, there's a lot of people. I can't even, if I start listing names, I'm going to upset people by not listing theirs. But
Yeah.
I think all the people out there know who they are.
Yeah.
Eric's been a great person in my life and a great, Mark, he's been great. But there's also, kind of senior people within Hypertherm, who have been like so supportive, and where we're trying to go with Hypertherm, I think is a fantastic thing. And, I think companies should really have a good look at, how we operate, what we do, what we offer our, associates, and as Eric said, it really is, a people first thing. And if people can be their best selves and bring their best authentic selves, then they're gonna do their best work, and that's very important, I think, in our organization and others.
That's amazing. Love it. Love it. I love having you guys on the show. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time that you took to talk to me today.
Absolute pleasure, Max. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Thanks for having me back. It's been wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to this going out. And
yeah, we might have to make this a recurring thing here every year or so. I'm not against that.
Yeah, but it seems, it's nice hearing, there was good feedback from the last one, and people, kind of you should have pushed here, you should have asked this. I mean, you know, I'm always open and happy to talk about my experiences, you know, and how I see things, and you know, I'm very open to answering questions and giving support when necessary. So,
Well, and I think on the other end of it, I'm always learning, and I think people need to be cognizant that you're always learning as an ally as well. Because being an ally doesn't mean just saying you're an ally and, oh, I just love everybody. It's about knowing about what's expected to be of an ally. You know, there's times to help, and there's also times to shut up and get out of the way. You know what I mean? Like there is a right way to be an ally, and it's also something I'm learning. And even with you, Minah, like I said before the podcast, from last podcast to this podcast, I learned things about how to do a Pride podcast, you know, because I also am learning, and some of these things are not just obvious. You have to make mistakes to learn, right? So, well, thanks so much, you both, like I said, and for all the people that have been listening along, check out all the other podcasts we're going to be having coming out this month during Pride Month. Get out there, support your local Pride community. There's so much you can do across North America, different organizations. Just Google it. There's something cool in your local neighborhood. If there's a show, go check it out. If there's a DJ, go dancing. I've seen like Pride themed cook parties and barbecues, and there's something for everyone. There's something for everyone. And just be visible, be strong, be a leader. We need it. And it's good for the industry. We need more people in the industry, and we need them from everywhere. So, you know, make sure that you do the best you can to help the people around you and make everyone feel safe and comfortable. Until the next time, we'll catch you here on the CWB Association podcast. Take care.
We hope you enjoy the show.